And welcome to I Protest. This is Donald Jeffries coming to you from just outside the swamp infested Washington, D.C., as we do every Friday at this time. No guests today. It's just going to be me and hopefully you guys. Hopefully we're going to see that chat room filling up soon. I'd like to have some of you join us. We'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. And there's Vince Agnelli. Good to see you, brother. And there, well, we have lots going on in the news. Hello, N. Good to see you. I think the great debate is going on right now. Good to see you, UYY, even as we speak, between Candace Owens and Andrew Wilson, who I'm still not sure what Andrew Wilson. Oh, good to see you, Ellen Corley. What Andrew Wilson is actually famous for, or why but somehow he got on Joe Rogan's podcast. In fact, I looked him up because I just wrote Linda Craig says she was just reading my subs. Thank you. Good. This is what I wrote about, wasn't it, Linda? Good to see you here. I always try to figure out where do these people come from. I had never heard from him either. I still can't really figure out what he's famous for, other than there's one famous thing where he debated a feminist, and to me, I think it's kind of hard to lose a debate to a feminist, but he was just annihilated by her. Apparently she knew that his wife has. Good to see you, Michelle. He's famous for yelling, Linda. That's exactly right. Seems to be, but she just confronted him with the fact that he's supposed to be a family values kind of guy, defending TPUSA, and he has his wife has 3 children from 2 different baby daddies. So I don't know. That's not exactly walking the walk. And of course, he didn't take too well to it. Good to see you, Stephanie Green. He didn't take too well to that and started yelling and was calling her names and just very. I seen a few people on X talk. I guess about they're watching the debate. I'll watch it tonight, but that he's not doing too well, which I guess doesn't surprise me. But I have my doubts about Candace, obviously, because just the fact that she would agree to a debate with something like, excuse me, I've got my sinuses here. So that she would, to agree to a debate with somebody like that. I don't see what the upside is for her, but hopefully she'll make him look stupid. It's a big show. That's exactly right, Linda. Good to see you, Don Lambert. But so at any rate, so we discussed that. We're going to discuss a lot. I'm reflecting on, I will be 70 in 5 days. So this will be my last show in my 60s. Yes, we did. We had lunch with Mr. Agnelli today. So good to see. And so it's obviously a milestone. It's making me feel old. And that number, I can't get past that number. So, we can talk about that. How some of you feel about that. I don't know some of your ages, but I don't have a real young audience. So I'm sure maybe some of you can relate to that. And then we have what Vince was telling me today that I have not been able to check anywhere else, that apparently Trumpenstein has now done one of his flip-flops in the favorable direction, which he hasn't done for a while, where he throws red meat to his supporters, where he's apparently threatened Israel or whatever, and to withdraw aid from Israel and Ukraine. Now, I don't know. Maybe some of you know more about that too. Vince knew about it, so we can talk about anything that you guys want to talk about. But that's the template, and people, if you can, Linda Craig already has. Linda says she's not too far behind me. Oh, okay. Well, I can't sell too much from your picture, Linda, but maybe it's an old picture because you don't look that old there. But I don't know. But I think probably most people listening to the show are kind of in the same general wheelhouse. But just I guess 70 isn't. It's not as old as it used to be. I guess it would be the new 50. Isn't that what they say? 50 is the new 30, 60 is the new 40. So I guess 70 is the new 50. So, but it's still that number is wow. Okay, well I can't say that. That's great, Linda. You're holding up well, it looks like. But from what I can see. But at any rate, so and I talked to my Substack, which Linda has read. Hopefully, the rest of you will read it too. And I would hope everybody listening to the show is a subscriber to my Substack, DonaldJeffries.substack.com. I protest the same as this podcast because I'm always protesting something. But the Substack today was about that debate, and I incorporated into that with Dawn Lambert says I'm almost old as her, 73. Yeah, well, I'm getting there. but any rate, so I talked a lot about Tucker Carlson's interview with Hunter Biden, which is finally, maybe not woke me up, but I mean, again, I tell people all the time I agree with 99% of what Tucker says. I'm aware of his background, and I know that I don't necessarily trust any of these people. Same thing with Candace Owens, who I don't agree with quite as much, but I think she's done good work on the Charlie Kirk case. But, this Hunter Biden thing kind of, because I watched some of the interview with Tucker, and it wasn't as bad as the Candace Owens ones. He did do a little bit more than Candace did. They actually talked about the laptop again for a little bit. But it's a good thing to know is that there is no laptop. According to Hunter Biden, there's no laptop. There never was a laptop. So apparently it was a hard drive or something. So that was just Rudy Giuliani and some Russian asset, apparently, that was Russian disinformation. Again, Tucker just kind of sat there, and this is his friend. They're kind of like, not frat brothers, but they're kind of like that. They're both members of the upper crust. So it's I don't know why he would do an interview like this. Just like I don't know why Candace Owens did. I think these are humiliation rituals, maybe, that they make them do to maybe let people like me know that, no, you can't count on us either. People that are willing to give them more of a doubt. Thank you, Don. Yesterday was my dog's birthday, by the way, Riley, I think. So she turned 14. So she's older than us now. That's 90 something, 91 in adult years. So at any rate, so we're and I was gratified to hear from Deborah Wheeler, who I have not heard from in a long time. I hope she would show up in the chat. She's not here, but she sent a nice birthday card to me and to Riley. She doesn't forget Riley. So that's the. I'm just looking at the chat. Good to see you guys here. So I'll probably open up the chat and put the link out there early to anybody that wants to come in. And this may be, I'm planning to, it just depends on what kind of participation I can get. I never know what I'm going to get in the chat. I don't, in this, I don't know if they're messing with the numbers, but my numbers are all over the place when I'm looking at this. Thank you, Chris. Where's Deborah? I don't know, Dawn, where she's been, but she sent me a birthday gift, which is very nice of her. So I was hoping she was okay. So she must be okay. Hopefully, maybe she's still listening to the show. She just decided for whatever reason not to be in the chat. I don't know. But anyway, where people come and go. I mean, sometimes I'll see an old name on American Unplugged chat or something. I'll say, hey, well, I haven't seen them in my chat for a long time. So I don't know what people come and go. Same thing on Substack. I mean, I get sometimes I'll look back and I'll read another article and say, oh yeah, what happened to that person? So, people come and go, whatever that they get, especially when you talk about and write about the kind of things I do. It's all controversial. Stephanie said, so when and where's the party? It's actually within 10 days. And it will be at a restaurant near me. And I don't know how many people will be there. It's, I've lost so many people in recent years. We looked at it. I had a much bigger party for my 50th and my 60th. That's a great expression. My grandfather used to say, only happens to the living, Vince. That's true. It beats the alternative. Thank you, Christine. But, I look at pictures of the 60th and I counted 8 people that have died since then. So that's 10 years. And some are friends, more are family members. So it's, it's going to be different. It won't be necessarily what I would have envisioned. I would have thought, something bigger, but that's just the way it is. And as Vince said, it beats the alternative because there are people that don't live to celebrate that, including, I said, a lot of the friends I've lost. I lost friends at too young of ages, and that's some of my childhood friends, I found out died a long time ago. So, but anyhow, hopefully one dear friend from high school may be coming up from Florida, which would be great if she did. It'd be wonderful to see her. I haven't seen her since my 50th birthday. So that would be very cool. And she's probably my oldest and dearest friend at this point. So hope to see you, Kay. But at any rate, that's on the personal front. Felix. So there's Felix. Good to see you, Felix. Says, in your opinion, is Trump suffering from a mental illness with his lifestyle of pooping and urinating on himself? Well, I don't know if that's a mental illness. I mean, if he really is doing that, unfortunately, I think it's a product of age, and it happens to some people. Usually, it doesn't happen to people that seem to be in as otherwise energetic condition as he is. So I don't know. UYY says, question for Don, did you ever talk to Sydney Sheehan about when Bill O'Reilly went after her? I don't think I've talked to her about that. I need to ask her that. But I mean, Bill O'Reilly goes after everybody. He certainly would go after him. This is a guy, remember, I talked about it in, I think it was Hidden History or American Memory Hole, where he went after a guy who's lost his father on 9/11 because he expressed doubts about it. And he was acting like he wanted to fight the guy. I mean, O'Reilly's insane. But it probably, time goes by so fast. It was a year, maybe 2 years ago. I don't remember. His podcast contacted me and wanted me to come on. And I just had to look at it twice. I said, Bill O'Reilly wants to interview me? And I'm thinking, what is he going to threaten to beat me up, I'm guessing? And he knows about me. But so I replied and everything. And then thank you, Robin. Good to see you. And Robin, thank you very much again. You're way too generous. Robin's just a wonderful supporter. But for whatever reason, he invited me, and then they quickly retracted and took it back and said, we'll contact you. And I knew they weren't going to. So I don't know how they got my name, but I mean, all they had to do was look at the titles of my books, and why would O'Reilly want me on the show? I don't know. But again, I guess he took a second look and said, okay. Stephanie says her birthday is 11/11. Everyone invited, and it will be a work party. I'll make you hot dogs. Okay. I wish you were around, Stephanie. You were close enough to me. As I recall, I think we're not that far away, but I think we're a few states away or something. But at any rate, so those are the major items in the news. And so, yeah, I'll take any questions you have from the chat, and anybody that wants to, I'll put the link out there in a few minutes, and you guys can jump in, and we'll, I'd like to hear from somebody. White Wolf, I don't see is there, and RB Ham, I don't see there yet. And those are usually the two that jump in quickly. So it'd be nice to some of the others want to come in. That's fine. And I'd love to see more of you on video. That would be really cool. In fact, I'll put that out there now. Let me put the chat there, and then the link to come on. So I'm putting the link out there. So jump on in. It makes it easier to do a show by yourself when you have interaction. So it's great. At least it's not questions from the chat room. It's wonderful to have you guys on. And it says Robin to the Bat Cave. There you go. Yeah, we need a Batman. That's what we need out here. So the link is out there for anybody that wants to join. Love to have you. I love this participation. That's what I said. When I start going on Substack Weekly, hoping to get a lot of people, because I have a lot of subscribers there, but I don't know how many people will watch it. And then hopefully we'll get I don't think I can do this. I think this is cool to be able to bring people on. And I've seen a couple other people are doing that now. I don't know if they got the idea from me, or maybe they were doing it already. But it's cool because it makes an interactive show. And I got that idea from Red Pill 78, who I haven't been on his show for a while, but he used to have me on fairly regularly. Maybe I'm too anti-Trump now. Thank you, Dawn. I appreciate it. My beautiful shirt. It's a crazy, it is what it is. It's what I wear. And although I have that one good thing I'm trying to do, Central Pennsylvania. That's right, Stephanie. I know you weren't too far away. Black Zionist said, "Did you watch the Candace versus Andrew?" No, I'll watch it tonight. So anybody that has, sure, give me some heads up on it. But how can I resist that? It's like a train wreck. But I am dubious of why Candace Owens even accepted it. And at first I thought, well, the fix was in, so she could somehow be exposed. But I don't know how. It's like losing a debate on the JFK assassination where you're arguing for a conspiracy. I don't know how that's possible. But, it's been done. It's like a few years back, they had I remember John Barber and I talking about it when he was in D.C. It was the same time they had another mock trial of Lee Harvey Oswald. And some of these guys, I'm not going to mention them, that are dubious, that are involved in the JFK research community, were involved. And they somehow lost the case. And again, that's just not possible. It's not possible to do it. I'm not a lawyer, and I could present it. Now, of course, you could, you're going to get an idiotic jury. I was watching again I watch the civil rights lawyer sometimes on YouTube. Although he doesn't answer me, I'd love to get him on my show. But I like what he does. He exposes police corruption and how another jury again found the cops not guilty, even though their entire crime was caught on video. Ellen Corley, good to see you.
Yes. Hi, Don.
Hi, how are you?
First one to jump in. This is, happy birthday coming up for
Thank
one
you.
thing.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
You mentioned, that you talk about controversial topics, and that's what I really appreciate is your conspiracy, the lie, your writing. What's the name of the book, about conspiracies?
Hidden history, crimes and cover-ups in American politics.
That's right.
They're all pretty much to do with conspiracies.
Right. Well, so anyhow, I'm basically, a man recently suggested at the Green Party that I should write an encyclopedia on conspiracy theories. And I think they're all true, basically. There's,
sure. Yeah, me too.
There's so much that hasn't been exposed. It keeps getting covered up, to me, it keeps coming back to Zionism and the Rothschilds. But I recently read something that, because I'm like a fact checker, that Mark Lane was a Zionist, and I know you worked with him. Is that true?
I don't think he was a Jew. He was Jewish. I don't think he was a Zionist, because he, near the end of what happened, and again, people always used to tell me Mark Lane was this or that because he was Jim Jones's lawyer and he survived Guyana. And I in my Substack today, I wrote, one of the books that had a huge impact on me when I was a teenager. I read the Illuminatus trilogy by Robert Anton Wilson and Robert Shea, and it's a sci-fi, and it really influenced my novel, The Unreals, because it's got a lot of faction in it. A lot of real names.
What trilogy was that? I'm sorry, we have an ear show. Planes flying here.
Mm-hmm. The Illuminatus trilogy,
okay.
And it's 3 parts, and I think it's the Eye of the Pyramid, the Golden Apple, and I can't remember what. But there's no. But anyhow, in one part of it, the authors name the 5 people that run the Illuminati, and Mark Lane was one of them. Now, why they picked him, I don't know, but it's ridiculous. But at any rate, that's so people are suspect of him, and I think they had a director of chaos or something. But I admired him as a civil libertarian. I admired obviously what he did for trying to expose the truth about the JFK assassination. Later in life, he became affiliated with Liberty Lobby, which is a far right-wing, supposedly anti-Semitic organization, and he became their official attorney. And he represented them in disputes with William F. Buckley, Aunt Jack Anderson, and Mel Mermelstein, who was a Holocaust survivor, who was claiming they were Holocaust deniers. So,
and also Hunt, right?
And he had Howard Hunt too. Yes, and he was their attorney in all those cases. And in fact, one time when I called the Spotlight to talk to them, and I used to call them once in a while, and now, of course, I write for American Free Press, is what the Spotlight became. He answered the phone. I said, Mark Lane? And so, but he supposedly became best friends with Willis Carto, who is a director of Liberty Lobby and is considered, a quintessential anti-Semite by, all the people that, look for that. So an odd choice of a best friend, needless to say. So I don't think it's possible Mark Lane might have been a Zionist when he was younger, but near the end of his life, if he was, then he was some kind of double agent because he was hanging around with people who were, very anti-Israel.
Right. It seems like just reading, I loved his book, Plausible Denial, where he exposed how I just love this, how to, that because the Liberty Lobby got sued by H.L. Hunt, that he was able to get discovery, and therefore really expose the CIA. And but what's confusing is I think of the CIA and the Mossad and Zionism as all being kind of the evil imperialist empire. And so and I thought of Mark Lane as being anti that, right? And so it's confusing,
Well, he was in my book, and then that's again the people that wrote Illuminatus, Robert Anton Wilson, later wrote a lot of other books, Cosmic Trigger, The Final Secret of the Illuminati, and other books that were not fiction. And he was notoriously very close friends with Timothy Leary, who was outed as a CIA agent. So, and was very dubious of conspiracy theories. And Wilson later became, even though he wrote Illuminatus and influenced people like me, he was kind of skeptical of. So I don't know. And a lot of people claim he was the reason he wrote it because he was actually a member of the Illuminati himself, and it was like his assignment or something. But he certainly talked like an insider. But I don't know. I know that if it's like they say about a lot of people, and I just wrote about Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, but there are more people that are not as big as that people think are shills and disinfo agents. So I can see them saying that, Mark Lane, because they say that about everybody. I mean, because you can find something in your, like I said, if they looked close enough. My background, I grew up in a house that the address was 3333, and I lived there for 19 years. Obviously, I had nothing to do with it. I moved there when I was 2. But if people looked at, his address was 30, that tells you something, So sometimes I think we can look too close at these things. But
don't you think it's, a form of smearing, to call somebody that, or I think there's always some intentionality, but and that's why you were talking about Candace, and to me the reason why they're suddenly so popular is that because they're daring to speak out about Zionism and the fact that they killed Charlie Kirk probably, and
that's Occam's razor. That's the most logical, simple explanation for it. But most people in our world think. I mean, they've told me many times. If you were legitimate, you would. That's why you're not allowed to be big. And they'd kill you if you were. So the only way to come out as being legitimate in our world is to either, like I am, not have that big of a platform, or to be killed. So that's a hell of a note that you have to do that. Otherwise, you're legitimate. So I don't know, but I was disappointed in Tucker Carlson's interview with Hunter Biden. I don't understand it. I was disappointed with Candace Owens' interview with him. I don't really understand it. To me, it makes. I don't know what they got out of it. They don't need ratings.
Yeah, I didn't even know it happened, actually.
No,
I thought of.
And they both were very sympathetic interviews. They weren't, they didn't really question him too much about the laptop or anything.
What?
And no, that's what I'm talking about, Robin. I haven't, and thank you, Brian and Deb McCarthy. Good to see you too here. I have not watched the debate yet. I will watch it though later, I think. If anybody that's seen is watching the interview, chime in. UYY wants to know, Ellen Corley, tell us about how one runs for Congress. Tell your story, please. Yes, tell your story. Yeah.
Well, I tried to run actually 5 years ago when in the Green Party. I basically was just wanting to be the one that gets into Congress, which I haven't been able to do, who would be the one that would dare to speak out and just I'd love to have that platform that the news come up and what do you think about this? And I'd be
Mhm.
like, we need to investigate these murders
I'd
and
love to see you there too.
right. But all I had to do was, so the Green Party just threw me out, right? Or they had an election and pushed me out for being anti-Semitic. This was in
Oh,
2020, just
yeah.
because I said I'm not for killing Palestinians. And then I've been, frustrated about it. But a man I know was running for Democratic, and the Democrat Party is in my district, and I was like, well, would you mind if I ran too? We'll kind of do it together, because he had done it before in 1982. He's now 88. And he said, I got 8%. And actually, the Republicans tried to buy him out, and say never run again at that time. But
Mhm.
this time I got 8%. But
Well, that's
my
not bad.
feeling, yeah, first I just had to get the 1,270 signatures to get, into the
Yeah.
primary. And that was,
Well,
fun that really is the key, is to get the signatures to get into a primary. But, unfortunately, the reality is the incumbent always wins. And so, I'm kind of push on this because I think we need to reform the way, campaign finance, but each state is different. And it's crazy. Our primary was in March. I wish it was now. It would have given me more time, to jump on issues and try to. I think you've got to get yourself in the media is the challenge, right?
yeah, no, it is. I'm laughing at the chat because I had lunch today with Vince Agnelli's in the chat. He said I didn't have that nose thing at lunch. What was in that burger? I don't know, but maybe I'm trying to in preparation for my birthday. I want to feel good about something, so I'm going on a diet. So I've already lost 14 pounds. So I'm going to keep doing that to have some positive going as I feel old. So the number is getting to me. That number's bothering me. So
well, I turned 71 last year, and as you mentioned that, I'm like, I'm 40 pounds heavier. I mean, that seems, how do you lose weight at 70?
well, I tell you, my daughter's one that turned me onto this. It's really easy. It's let me tell you what's it called. It's an app. Anyone that's interested, it's called My Net Diary. You can download it, and you don't have to do like I don't. You can enter everything you eat, and they keep track of your calories for you. I don't do that, but what I do is I look up the calories because most things now have. I never used to watch calories for years. I weighed the same as when I was in high school, and so I never I ate what I wanted, and I got a lot of activity, so I burned a lot of calories up. But everything has calories on it now, so you just look at what the calories are, and then if I don't know, like okay, what's a slice of Domino's pizza with pepperoni, and they have that, so you can keep track of it like that. So like today at lunch, what I did, when I go out and have something like hamburger and French fries, I just eat half of it. I eat half the burger and half the fries, and that cuts it down to something manageable. So it's really just about that. And I don't really get hungry, and I don't know. I mean, obviously my birthday is going to tempt me, and I'll have to go off it a little bit, but it's not that hard when you do it like that, And I'm Stephanie's going on 66. Okay, Vince is going to be 39. Okay, but you're like Jack Benny. You mentioned Jack Benny today, but thank you, Robin. Brian says the government loves these apps. They will lock you down with the. Well, maybe I hope the government's going to lock me down of the weight loss app. Maybe so. I don't know. I've got a bunch of apps on there, and I've started using them. So I'm on every list there is, anyhow. So I have been for a long time. So what difference does it make?
Yeah, I think fighting. I recently, my credit cards were used weirdly. So they said, we think it's fraud. Let's just cancel it and give you another one. And so I'm now on number 4, but what makes it hard is the internet and all the Amazon and supporting people like you or something, you can't really tell what these little charges are, but I don't know. I think somehow we've got to figure out how to, social media is not a good replacement for media. Maybe it should somehow be more regulated or something, right?
Well, the problem with that is that who's going to regulate it, and is it because the government's been upset at the internet. So and it's ironic. I don't know if that story's true or not, that they came out of the Pentagon. They want us to think how ironic, but regardless, when the internet, I think, was the most fantastic invention ever. When it came out, I was just like overjoyed. Well, I can find anything, and for years, I said they can't do anything about it, because anything they do, some teenager in Japan will invent a hack and get around it quickly, and they know that. But I never counted on the social media platforms getting so big and then them using that to cancel us, where we became dependent on that. And so they could cancel Alex Jones and all the smaller people, and people had to be censor themselves. So that's what they do. And I didn't. Thank you, Wawa. I appreciate that. Tomorrow's Assumption of Mary. Happy birthday. Well, my birthday's the 19th, but thank you very much. Stephanie lost 180 pounds in 1.5 years eating just protein. Wow. Fantastic. You make my 14 pounds look like nothing. But anyhow, what was I saying? So, yeah, so they would like nothing more than they can't stand the fact that they really hate the fact that these things, something like this exists, podcasts, where some average unwashed masses, some common riffraff can get on, and with a webcam and a microphone can have some kind of talk show, can get some kind of audience, and people can chime in, and there's a chat room and everything. It's interactive. They hate that, and they hate Substack and blogs like that. They hate the fact that anybody can get out there and put their thoughts out there, their observations, their conclusions, and influence people without the talking heads, interpreting it and saying, no, that's crazy. They hate that. And so what they've done to people like me, they limit my influence because of the shadow ban. So they limit my numbers. My account on Twitter was hacked again this week, or they took it away briefly, and I had to take down a post. It's the only way I was going to get it back. And then somebody accused me of being a shill for taking my post down. So I was like, what was I supposed to do? Not have an account again? And there's no way to fight it. So that's what they've done. So there is, but if they ever get to the point where they can regulate it, then you're going to have none of this at all. You won't have anybody close to me with any kind of podcast, because they'll regulate it. And that's anti-Semitic, you're racist, you're conspiracy theories.
But that,
because you can't have that
should be regulated, shouldn't it? I mean, that I think the problem started in like 1980 with William Casey saying, I'm going to, he stole the promised software, which, became these other, and he said it's going to be total information awareness, or now terrorist information awareness. And this is how they can shadow ban. And I just think we've got to stop the government from being able to shadow ban and then, because it's all privately owned, supposedly by Zuckerberg and these people, that they go, well, you can't regulate them. The First Amendment doesn't apply to them.
Well, that's what we would have to do. And they didn't. The reason the FCC was allowed to exist is because they didn't. The founding fathers never foresaw. They didn't see anything like radio or television or movies. Certainly not the internet. So when they talked about freedom of speech, obviously they didn't specify that. So when it came up, radio, they just bypassed that, because, well, it doesn't say anything about that. These are, and so that's the problem, is that it should have been amended at that time to cover all forms of communication. And they should have said something like all forms of communication, like radio, television, and anything in the future, any more technologically advanced forms of communication. They never did. And so the First Amendment in their minds doesn't apply to any of this. And it wouldn't. If they had an FCC, we would not be able to have this conversation if the FCC existed on the internet.
Well, Well, but that's where I've
Oh,
always said I think it's the opposite, that we need a fairness doctrine. That's where I love John Barber's movie, you know, the second
second
assassination
assessment.
of
Yeah, yeah.
John F.
John,
Kennedy, the
right,
American media. But
right,
and he really, it should be taught. In Georgia, I used to be a teacher, and you had to teach mass media. And I'm like, that would have helped so many teachers teach mass media by putting it in context of, how the media didn't allow Jim Garrison to
right.
speak, but he said it was the last time that Jim Garrison, was, I thought he brought on to Johnny Carson, and he
Yes.
said the CIA did not, did assassinated Kennedy. And, John Barber and his amazing humor, was
Oh,
it.
I really, really miss him. Can't believe he's gone. But he's 93, so he lived a good life. But yes, they had the NBC was forced to give Garrison a half an hour to respond because of the fairness doctrine. So I mean that is important, I think, for television and those because nothing gets on because all the inroads we've made in the world in terms of conspiracy theories and open-mindedness, it's nowhere. The closest you got to it was when Tucker had a show on Fox, and he started increasingly opening it up to that for the most part. But he wasn't critical at all of Israel on that show. It wasn't until he got off Fox then he started doing it. So, but that's as close as you get. Fox News now is nothing. You can't. They may talk about Ilhan Omar or something marrying her brother. I mean, that's as far as they go. It's the same thing people talked about Bill O'Reilly earlier. The kind of stuff he talked about when Bill Clinton was president. I remember I watched it a couple of times and I was just amazed thinking, there's so many Clinton scandals out there. What he did at Waco and Whitewater and the cattle shares and Filegate and all the body count. He would never touch any of that. Nothing. Instead, he would, I don't know what he would talk about Clinton, protesting the Vietnam War or some stupid stuff like that. He would,
Well, isn't that, I mean, that's the problem. I also with William Casey and the right wing, CIA influence, Justice Department, is that, Fox News was able to come in. His idea, William Casey's, was they got rid of, they said, now that we have cable, we don't need a fairness doctrine or an FCC. We've got all the freedom you could possibly need, which is crazy. I mean, because if you look at cable, is talk about no news there, but except for Fox News, it's still on cable, right? But
yeah.
and I think the key to me was, when I was following the pandemic or the plandemic, when Tucker came out at what he said that he wasn't vaccinated, that was kind of his kiss of death, I think, right? But I think it's the connection between the deep state and the vaccine as biological warfare that they won't let you talk about it. And that's such a censorship violation of free speech, right? And I think that's the topic that it's the free press. I am so confused about, was the free press the same one that Barry Weiss? Was that free press that the same one you're with, or there's different free presses all over the place? Right?
Barry Weiss was never. She would. I mean, you kidding? God, there's so many anti-Israel articles. No, mine is the American Free Press, which was the spotlight. I don't know what free press. I mean, they've had the L.A. Free Press, but I don't. I think what's his name? Hustler magazine guy, Larry Flint. I think he had something, the free press, some kind of free press back in the day. But now the American Free Press is what the spotlight became after the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, drove it out of business, drove it into bankruptcy. And so they reemerged as that. And again, they'd like to and they're still really, they're the largest and really the only independent newspaper out there where they would publish something by me. And, I write something for every one of their issues. And, that has, I mean, they reprint stuff by Pat Buchanan and Ron Paul, people like that too. But there's no other newspaper doing that. And that's because even though there is no FCC for newspapers, it has always operated that way, pretty much. I mean, it's just, I mean, during my lifetime, the New York Times and the Washington Post, I mean, these were the worst newspapers in the world for the military-industrial complex, and especially on the JFK assassination. I mean, they lied repeatedly about that.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a teenager, I thought I want to be like Woodward and Bernstein. I wanted to be a reporter, maybe, and I thought they were the good guys. And then when I joined Mark Lane's group as a volunteer, Citizens Committee of Inquiry, I started saying, well, these guys, they're not interested at all in the JFK assassination. That's a much bigger issue than Watergate. They had no interest. And then I started learning about Dan Rather's past as a Dallas correspondent in 1963 and how he got his start there lying about the JFK assassination. I thought it really opened my eyes, because I thought the liberals were the good guys, a card-carrying member of the ACLU, and it's still. I mean, I never really liked the right, but I drifted over there on a lot of things because the left was just so, and the left is still so bad. It's just that with the Israel thing now, the left has, for whatever reason, they've collectively really become anti-Zionist. I don't know why. It doesn't fit them with anything else they do, but so, okay, I'll align with him on that. And the Republicans have just all become shills for Israel, and everyone. I mean, they just merged our together under NDAA.
Well, that seems to be the pattern and practice of the psychological operation, is to either, no matter what, we can't get out of war.
Right. That's what it is. That's what it is. And they just,
right. The Democrats, and they operate as a party, and that's it used to be 40% of people were Democrat, were independent, 30% Republican, 30%, Democratic. And now I think we should have 100% independent. I think the ability to manipulate public opinion, with this undue influence that always works against Americans and our independence, that's an existential problem. Right?
No, it is.
The way the propaganda that I remember the beginning of this Ukraine war, they were saying, well, the America propaganda is that America's winning, and the other side, I guess, the European or the propaganda is that Americans losing. And I mean, to this day, I turn on alternative media and I can't figure out whether America. Well, I'm pretty sure that America's losing, but and the other thing is they want to keep, the media in America, and I think it's controlled by the BBC and, the Crown and the globalist, that way. That's what I'm, LaRouche, I'm aligned with the LaRouches in terms of tracing it to the Crown of England.
I voted for Lewis for president. One of those elections, I know I voted for him. We here in Virginia, we've had representatives many times in the past that ran unopposed, and a lot of times they had a lady named Nancy Spanus. Who she would always be the only candidate. I voted for her many times because she was the only opposition. I was like, okay, she's not an incumbent, so I have to support her.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize she'd run so many times. If you look at our truthactionproject.org, last Tuesday, I call him my LaRouche handler. He doesn't like it, but Ron Bettig, we featured him, and it was great because the issue was, who was Lyndon LaRouche? And, my Chuck Fall, who is a liberal, green, actually he's a green libertarian, but he had always had the impression that LaRouche was a fascist, and it was really good for Ron to be able to just answer questions about, who exactly was he, because that otherwise we are, I think if there's so much, public relations is used to smear the opposition.
Well, remember when before they changed the rules about the fairness doctrine, LaRouche many times he used to have a half an hour or an hour that he got on network television that he paid for. and he would come on, and it was, I mean, yeah, I didn't agree with it. I didn't understand some of this stuff, but because he tended to really point the finger at the British royal family in England, and I think he liked FDR, which I can't stand FDR, but I've written a lot about that. But nobody's perfect, and you don't get that. He was very interesting at any rate, and his headquarters were near me in Sterling, not that far from me in Sterling, Virginia. And I remember I used to have one of my contacts when I was working at the hospital, inside the hospital, then was a right-wing pharmacist who he turned me on to right-wing politics because I found out about the spotlight from him, and I told him about the JFK assassination. So he used to bring me so many. Before the internet, they had newsletters. So he would give me Don Bell reports and the Duck Book and all these things that were out there back then that I couldn't afford. But he had unlimited funds. But he lived in Sterling, I think, and he told me, Don, I thought World War III started today. He said he could not believe the show of force they took out when they raided LaRouche's headquarters. And again, what?
Yeah.
You could say LaRouche was wrong. He wasn't dangerous. Again, the idea that ideas are dangerous, that's what we have to get away from. No idea is dangerous. That's thought crime. You can't have thought crime, but that's exactly what they want. And very few people, I remember like saying that was ridiculous back then. Everybody just looked at me because most people thought LaRouche was crazy. So he deserved to have a raid. It's like, that's not the way it works, but that's
right.
Where we are.
Well, the raid, luckily, the LaRouche people, they used to have a big group in Chicago, and then the last two, Tony and Sue, they were moving, but they gave me a chance to go and get all of these back reports from LaRouche, and like the night they came to kill me, and it is the best. It's like you in terms of exposing the conspiracy, Michael Ledeen, and we have a woman in our truth group who's like, well, why didn't they talk about is Zionism and their role in not, killing Kennedy, and because her father had been killed by she really had been researching it since 1963. The airplanes left Dallas and landed where she and her father were living in Mexico, and then her father got killed because he was, an inconvenient witness, potentially. So, but anyhow, I looked into it, and they did expose a lot, the ADL and, those, they operate like a dirty, military Mossad kind of thing, actually, right?
Well, that's why Israel's a dividing line on a lot of things, and you see it in. There are a lot of people like somebody like Naomi Wolf, who because I was kind of friends with her. I almost never talked to her, but I mean, she wrote the foreword to one of my books. But she would never talk to me now because there's no way we could come together on Zionism. She's become a really strong Zionist, and obviously I'm not. So that's a dividing line, even if we agreed on everything else. And you find that in a lot of somebody like RFK Jr., who I believe has a gun held to his head. I think Rabbi Shmuley's his handler. I don't know what they have on him, but they have something. And because he doesn't, there's no way he believes what he's talking about. How about the Kennedy family history, and with the fact he named Dennis Kucinich as his presidential campaign manager? Dennis Kucinich was one of the biggest critics in Congress of Israel. You think he didn't know that? So most people now, they all love to hate on RFK Jr. And of course, I'm a Kennedy fanboy, and I just, at this point, I don't know what he's doing. He looks like a lost lamb, but I can still support him, because if he really made America healthy again, then okay, I'd put Israel aside for a minute, because that would be a great thing. But he's not even allowed to do that.
Well, that's what, and I am seeing, that he's it's, you've got to find somebody. But here's my latest question in terms of, is this true or a conspiracy theory? I've been following Brendan O'Connell. I don't know if you watch him at all.
I've heard of him. I've heard of him.
He's very interesting. He's very knowledgeable, but he's really alerted about, he calls it Pax Silica, but it also touches on, he's this Section 219 of the National Defense Authorization Act, which, there's well, some people say, the LaRouche say that's merging the
Yes.
Israeli
Yes.
and the U.S. military. But Brendan O'Connell's theory is that, he's been so critical of Israel, but he thinks that maybe it's a way that there'll be oversight. The 219 is a way to give oversight over Israel. I find that kind of hard to believe.
Yeah, hard to believe too. But I mean, that's almost a 4D chess kind of thing. I don't know. We should be when I say that, I feel for the Palestinians. I think they've been treated terribly, but I don't want to go get involved on their side. I want to disengage. I want to pull the plug, and all that will get better without our money. So we just stop funding it, and obviously stop funding Ukraine. Bring all that money home. There's so much we could do with it here, but they just don't want to do it.
Well, yeah, that's because it seems they've got the AIPAC controls both the big parties, so and that seems to be it should be against the law. Actually, it was on the news that they're saying that, well, AIPAC, because people are starting to speak out about it, with that election in Michigan, how much money was spent there. But they said only 60 million was spent. I thought 60 million was spent on that election alone. But the news, the way BBC or NPR will they put on these people that are just downplay the threat of our country. But they say, well, AIPAC is not, there's nothing, they're not foreign. Well, they weren't they? They were part of the AIPAC.
Of course.
John F. Kennedy was going to investigate.
Yeah. So RFK tried to get them to register as a foreign lobby 6-7 different times while he's president. And that's the line now. AIPAC is an American. No, we know what AIPAC is. It doesn't matter where their headquarters are located. They exist as a foreign lobby for Israel. There's no question about it. And they should just lobby. But
and so it's interfering in our elections by a foreign agent.
Of course.
That's the whole idea of the Foreign Agent Registration Act, right?
Absolutely.
But I don't know. Actually, I remember seeing somewhere that there's surprisingly only 4 people, I don't know who they were, have ever been, accused of wrongfully not registering with the Foreign Agent Registration Act. These are the big ideas that I'm like, that's why I wanted to go to Congress to try to push something like this.
Well, we need somebody like you there, because again, and there's so many. One of my populist ideas, and I got it actually. I got it from the People's Almanac many years ago, which I used to love reading. But written by all Jews, Wolochinsky and it. But I love the People's Almanac, and one of their ideas was to have the House of Representatives become a lottery system. So that every 2 years, random people were picked in a lottery, and they served for 2 years across the country. And that would assure a real cross section. That would assure, that would be great. And it would stop, at least in the House, it would stop. It would be really effective term limits, and it would, you would have a hard time bribing those people that were there for that short a period of time. So I like that idea, and I think that may be the only kind of thing we can do. It would at least now there's you could still get a bunch of stinkers in there, who knows, but they would be different people. They wouldn't be all lawyers. They wouldn't be all CFR members and that you have now. But we need something, because that's what was the appeal of Trump. Trump was talking about draining the swamp, and obviously his idea of draining the swamp wasn't what anybody that voted for him thought it was, and nothing has happened there. But that's why all this talk about, they've got all these Democrats and what's his name, Christopher Wray, and all these, who of course Trump appointed. I used to point that out during the first. Trump appointed Christopher Wray, right? That was his appointment. So what is he thinking when he does something like that? But all these people, they have dead to rights, and they've had Hillary Clinton dead to rights forever. I wrote articles in American Free Press years ago about how John Brennan wrote a memo, the CIA director, about how, and it's out there, that Hillary's idea is to blame the Russians for Trump's election. It's obvious, but they don't do anything, and they act like this is new news. And so on X, I just keep saying, okay, good. So when are they going to be prosecuted? Who's going to be prosecuted? No one will be prosecuted. They'll just keep talking about it.
Well, actually, that's what I did want to bring up. But I don't think I got to that. That this Brendan O'Connell says that that Israel is in bed with Putin as well as Xi, the Chinese, and that they're all working. Israel's kind of the master, octopus, kind of controlling all of this. And I'm like, you're right. Everywhere we look, and it's either pro-Ukraine or pro-Russia, or pro-Israel versus and those are all distractions from, the fact that all the leaders probably are all working together, right? For the money, they're all bought and paid for. And that's why there was something called the honest services laws, and that got narrowed down to it was supposed to stop corruption and say that you could prosecute the Justice Department for something other than being able to take money, be bribed. But that needs to be expanded, because it's like whatever this recent thing, they go, we'll send it to the Justice Department, and it just dies there, right? And they've also given them immunity from prosecution, right? Given themselves immunity from prosecution, and now Trump, and this is what Himmler and the Nazis did. And I mean, this influence over their control over our justice system is really scary.
Well, it's a joke, and no one's ever held accountable. And again, the people that still are loyal to Trump, when they had Fauci, they trotted him out there, and of course Fauci, was horrible. He wasn't the only one. A bunch of them should be prosecuted. Bill Gates, the directors of the CDC and at WHO, but Fauci is he was pardoned by Biden. And the idea was, okay, well, it was invalid because the 2020 election was valid. Okay, that's fine. But the problem is your fearless leader, Trump, came out right then after he testified. Oh, no, I'm okay with the pardon now. I'm not going to contend. So he's telling you that he's okay with the pardons. And yet you're still talking about it. Fearless leader's not going to do anything. He pulled the rug out from you like he always does. He creates it. And so that's the whole Trumpenstein project, is that he puts these things up. He was one of the leaders in the birther thing about Obama, which there was something there. They were hiding something about Obama's past. But then as soon as he became president, one of the first things he says, Barack Obama was born in the United States, period. It's like, wait, what? So everybody that might have voted for you because of that, again, but he always does that. And somehow his cult doesn't catch on. I don't, it's like, it's
a script. I think that, that's the public relations agents, that seem to be the crown of the Rothschild, the Zionist Rothschild, City of London, and maybe Russia. The real rulers are, they're writing the script of all the elections, all the media, all the war. It's just, and it's like propaganda laws. You were like, well, didn't they end propaganda laws with yellow journalism? And you thought there'd be some regulation over propaganda. And actually, I think, they said advertising agencies, maybe they have to be, but it seems like it all depends on the other party suing you, or libel.
I mean, everything that they our major media is no different from TASS or Pravda. The only difference is the Soviets knew what they were. They didn't believe it. Most Americans think CNN and Fox News and the New York Times, the Washington Post, these are not competing outlets. They're not. If they were, you'd see some competition. You'd see some real difference of opinion. They're not. They're all Zionist. They're all anti-conspiracy theories. They all go after the same people. So if somebody comes out that might be, whether it's fake or not, like when RFK Jr. was running for president, whether it was fake or not, they all lined up against him. Everybody hated it. That's what they do. And this is, as I talk about all the time, James Forrestal, who was Harry Truman's Secretary of Defense, who they pushed out of a window at Bethesda Naval Hospital later. And he told Joe McCarthy, who, read my books, you can see how wrong they were about Joe McCarthy. They really smeared him and blamed him for a lot of stuff. They blame him for the Hollywood people who appeared before the House Un-American Activities Committee. McCarthy was in the Senate. He had nothing to do with that. But again, it's McCarthyism. It's like, okay, whatever. His name sounds better. But
wasn't there a Senate component? Why was Roy Cohn and you mean?
Well, Roy Cohn was awful. He was infiltrated. I think he was the infiltrator on McCarthy's committee. But McCarthy was basically questioning the Army. He went after the Army because he thought there. And again, he didn't know he was doing that, but because he was naive. But as I've written in my book, the Cold War was completely phony. It always was. And so he was finding Soviet moles, which you probably could have found American moles over there. It was phony. They were orchestrating things. And that's when they went after him with a vitriol that you've never seen. And I think they later killed him after they killed Forrestal. But Forrestal told McCarthy at one time, if this wasn't a gigantic conspiracy, once in a while they'd make a mistake in our favor. And I use that over and over again. If this was random, you wouldn't see the same types of people constantly running for office, same getting elected, because there's a vacuum. People like you that are sitting there saying, well, I could offer something completely different here. But people like that never have a chance because they stop, and it always ends up with the same people in office. And so nothing can ever get done. And I don't think that's, that's any kind of accident.
Well, I agree. And that's why we need, maybe actually, as I write about this stuff too, and come to the same conclusions that you do, that at one point, it's like public relations is not regulated, but actually the Public Relations Society of America, was, they said, maybe you should give a talk on this. And I was like, I really should, it really is, it's just propaganda, right? That's basically, that's why I say unregulated. It's just left to, I didn't realize the Federal Communication Commission doesn't have any oversight over the media, but over the press, right?
No, the problem is that the FCC, they use the FCC. UIY says, if I've ever been inside a Trump company property, what did you think of the decor? Well, I think used to go to Atlantic City too frequently. And Trump had he had one or two casinos there. I didn't go to his very much. I don't remember that much about them because I didn't get deals there. I would go where I got free rooms and stuff, but I can't remember. I'm sure it was gaudy as showing up in the White House. But I mean, the thing about the FCC is that they were again FDR's, one of his many alphabet agencies that were put, and because radio had been invented, movies had been invented, television was going to be invented, and so the powers that be, they had to have something to prevent real dissemination of information, because something like that, even radio, was much better than newspapers, because everybody was listening to the radio. So if you could have real people, now you did have some at the beginning. You had Father Coughlin, the Catholic priest, Charles Coughlin, who was very anti-Semitic. He talked about the Jews all the time, and Roosevelt shut him down. But they used the power of the FCC to do that. But in the beginning, before that, he was able to get on the air, and he didn't violate. I mean, later you would see people like Howard Stern who would be, the FCC would go after him for, different reasons, for, obscenity and nudity and stuff like that. But they're there to censor. And that's the problem, is that when you open the door to that, then, you may not, I mean, there are lots of things I don't like, but that's, I'm a free speech purist, so I don't want to shut down anybody's free speech. And I
Right.
think,
I thought that, I'm sorry, I thought that, I didn't realize they were just going after individuals. I thought that they had the power to kind of, get rid of shadow banning, to stop
well, I
the
wouldn't trust
control
them.
over
I
the
think
media.
I think they support shadow ban. I mean, I don't know
Yeah,
that.
well,
I don't know
that's,
anybody.
if you could get, I guess they've got 4 Democrats and 4 Republicans. So either way, somebody's going to lose or
Well,
nothing's going to get done.
they all have something to protect, though, because the Democrats are going to be looking at anything racist or misogynist or anti-transgender, transphobic, and the right is going to be looking at anything anti-Semitic, anything's critical of Israel. So
Right.
neither side wants free speech because they don't want that. They may
Yeah.
support, the other. Oh no, we can't have that. So that's the problem I have with it. But let us, because I said we have a right under free speech. We have a right to be racist or anti-Semitic or whatever. I mean, that's that it's part of you. It's your opinion. People can say, well, that's terrible. You feel that way, but you have a right to. Otherwise, you're not free.
Well, I was thinking that we need to expand. It seems like the Supreme Court cases will say, okay, you don't have the right to discriminate based on sex or based on race.
Sure,
but
right.
it needs to be expanded for having a political opinion.
Yes, absolutely.
That's where the discrimination is, and it's all, it's total. It's totalitarian.
I'm putting this
and
I'm putting the link out there again, guys. Remember, anybody that
Mm-hmm.
wants to jump in and join Ellen and I, please do.
Come on in, people. I hate being accused of
a White Wolf or RB Ham neither. I don't know where they are today, but they usually would be jumping in. But hopefully my Canadian friend RB Ham, not sure what he's doing. And White Wolf would turn this into a discussion on Catholicism probably, but regardless, it's what he usually does.
Well, I've got another topic that I think when you mentioned
Angel Blue, yeah, where is Angel Blue? I don't see her here. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the Taj Mahal, and that was financed by Wilbur Ross, who is Rothschild, right? Just like Trump, Epstein, said, well, I represent, Rothschild, and that's the real third rail right there, right? The media won't talk about that. And that's why you really should bring on actually Brendan O'Connell as a person that he would be interesting. Yeah,
well,
I was
if
writing
he would
last
come,
night.
I mean,
usually, he would.
I look at how popular people are, and if they're too popular, they usually blow me off. I mean, they usually don't respond. I mean, that's been the
no. He's not that popular. He's actually the most shadow banned, targeted person out there.
Yeah, we should get along well.
He's living in Mexico because he's been writing about Israel, and he calls out Candace Owens and Whitney Webb. He goes, why don't you write about what Christopher Boleyn says, or what why don't you really expose the stuff?
Well,
right?
Whitney Webb was on my show a couple times early on, and she's so popular now she doesn't answer me anymore. That's what happens. This is there is Angel Blue. Thank you. I'm watching your awesome show. I'm making homemade muffins for my mom. Oh, that's great to see. Thank you, Angel. I appreciate that. Chris Graves, it's great to see you in the chat. I hope you're doing okay. Haven't seen your name, although I saw it last week. Thank you. God bless you too, Angel. But
speaking of, actually, we got another person that I've made contact with is Johnny Vedmore, who is Whitney Webb's baby daddy or whatever. They had a child together, right? And he is really interesting. And I asked him, I said, I want to, why don't you and Whitney come on in, and I want to be like your godmothers. I love both of y'all, but right. But he said she is she only trusts like 1 or 2 people. So she really doesn't, it's very hard to get her. He can't get her to come on.
She's on the big shows now. She's been on the big, she'll go on Jimmy Dore and stuff. She was on my show early on. And that's what I mean. It's like, I've compared this. This is a social hierarchy, and now Whitney Webb has moved to where she's close to the most popular table in the cafeteria if she's not at it. And that's where, Joe Rogan, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, they're sitting at that table. I'm over in the corner somewhere with people like me, and that's the way it is. It's a social hierarchy.
Well,
And
I don't know. I think it's actually, I disagreed. I remember you said that last time I was on, and I think she's targeted. I mean, the first time I was like,
well,
you're probably going to get killed if if she lived any closer. But and she also gets smeared. Actually, that's why I like listening to Brendan O'Connell. He says her father is CIA, and Candace Owens' husband is with the Crown, and so there's they may well be. Actually, another really interesting guest is Lehman is his name, Leonard Lehman Lerman or something, and Leland Lehrman. He came on to our Medical Doctors for COVID Ethics, which brings on great speakers that were all punished by the pandemic and the operation. But he acknowledges that his father was Project for New American Century and organized it. And my stepfather was, he worked for Oppenheimer, head of research for Oppenheimer. But Christopher Bolin said that his partners, who he adored, Leon Levy and Jack Nash, were part of the 9/11 and so it's. But I think maybe that's the hope of our generation, is that you can't really censor the second generation, right? There's a lot of people speaking out,
I don't want, and I know people have said, are suspicious of Whitney Webb. She does come from a wealthy family. I think that's probably why. But I admire her work on the surface. I can't, I kid, she's been on my show a couple of times. I just end up a chip on my shoulder when people don't answer me, especially when they used to and they've been on my show, and it happens too much. And because I don't do that to anybody. And if people ask me on the show, first of all, I never say no.
But you're great at that. But I think sometimes the emails don't go through, and that's another. I wish that we need to be regulating the way media. I mean, I think they could very easily just make sure that nobody gets my emails. It seems like that.
Well, yeah, I think that sometimes too. But that used to be my go-to thing about regulating, because again, I used to be a Democrat. But the problem is, both government and business are so bad that I don't know. You need an independent force, and that's the problem. Is we could have a people's regulation, because we need people's oversight. We need people's oversight of police oversight committee in every community. That should be, but and they I thought they used to have it, but they clearly have no power if they do. And we need oversight committees for medical, for insurance, for really regulate law, for lawyers, people's oversight in all of it. And we should have a people's oversight of Congress. Yeah. And that kind of thing. But nobody at me thinks that.
Well, they vote, and I know in Chicago, it's a real case study for how corruption works. And I follow these men who were wrongfully convicted. They
you must
maybe
have heard
third.
Sherman Skolnick, right? The clean up the courts in Chicago.
Yeah, right. What a hero! Yeah, the city council here just voted. They voted to no oversight, no inspector general, no. And one guy tried to stay down there and act like an unpaid inspector general. I don't know if he's still around, but I mean, maybe that's what we need to do, is just.
Well, that's the problem. You have the city council voting to not have themselves have an oversight. I mean, of course they're going to say no. We don't. I don't know what the answer is, and that's the problem, is that we have, because people talk about it's constitutional republic, which it isn't anymore, because he never has acted like that. But more people say it's democracy, which the founders didn't intend. But we're not a democracy either. One of my Substacks a while back, I wrote, and I read the definition. I wrote about the definitions of a republic, of a democracy, of a plutocracy, an oligarchy, and of course that's what we are. something like that. We're definitely not a republic or a democracy because the people have no power. We have no power. And there's nothing, the only way we can do anything, and I sound like a broken record, is we have a huge advantage in numbers. We outnumber them by hundreds of millions. We have to use the numbers, and we just won't because we can't come together. We're distracted and divided over everything, and we can't come together in a common cause.
Well, I think part of it is people say, well, the federal government is too corrupt, so forget them. Just act local, think global, act local. And I'm like, I think that's how they've rigged it, is, that we've got 50, neo-feudal operations, that are in, each one of them has their own set of constitution and their own laws, and each, I don't know how many at this stage, have conflated Zionism with anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism.
Well, 38 states, I think, have voted to have some kind of thing on that, which is unbelievable. Vince Agnelli says, start over like 1776. Yeah, one of Alex Jones's greatest slogans was, the answer to 1984 is 1776. Whatever you think about Alex Jones, that's a great slogan. And if we could all get together and have that, wear a T-shirt with that, I mean, that's, Vince says that's called federalism doesn't work, doesn't. That's why when people, I used to be constitutionalist. I still defend the Bill of Rights, but I'm more and more with the people that didn't want the Constitution. I'm more and more with Patrick Henry and people, George Mason, and people like that at the beginning who wanted to keep the Articles of Confederation because they really had decentralized power. Then each state was like a mini country. And they could decide for themselves, because what happens is when they consolidate, especially happened after the Civil War, it becomes a powerful central government, and then it becomes this Leviathan you can't fight. And that's what we are. Like you said, starting local. We do need to start local, but the problem is we're not successful there. I live near Loudoun County, which was the epicenter of the parent school board protests. They did nothing. They got nothing accomplished. There's still the same tyrants in there. They're still teaching critical race theory and transgender story hour and all that stuff. So, and one of the parents that one of the guys that was objected to his daughter being raped in the bathroom by a transgender who obviously wasn't quite hadn't transitioned yet. Nothing happened to him. They arrested the father after the cops beat him up. That's local level. How much lower can we go than that?
I mean, could that be like propaganda made up by the same people that said the welfare queen? My stepfather, neocon, used to quote this. So the welfare queen's got $125,000 a year.
Well, that was made up. That was Reagan,
right? But those kind of stories. Well, about
I've seen videos. They had videos. I've seen the video of the father who made the speech and objected to his daughter being raped in the school bathroom. And they sicked the cops on him. They beat him up, and he was arrested. So it's and of course, none of the other parents came to his defense and tried to stop. And that's the problem. They don't work together.
But Don, because you were said earlier, how could someone? I didn't realize that you were anti-feminist.
Well, I'm not. I know. I'm anti maybe toxic feminism, but I don't. I want everybody to have equal rights, but I think that, again, that's been, something like the Civil Rights Act, obviously I would have been for that in the day, but the problem is it birthed affirmative action and DEI and things that are still here all these years later, that everybody should be treated the same, subject to the same laws, the same rules.
Right.
Race shouldn't be mentioned on any application anywhere.
Well, but it is. It's interesting because that's what we need is we need to put the civil rights movement back where it should have been. But I have one insight that, the people who stole the Promise software it was marketed through the, Raphael Ton, the military intelligence, and, William Casey and Meese. But, there was this famous letter through that the head of the Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department was marketing the promised software, and
Yeah.
if you look at who's in the Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department, I think it's because I studied, organizational development and human resources, and, potentially you could just at administrative law level regulate the Justice Department, right? So that the Civil Rights Department isn't the one, and basically subverting democracy. That actually, I just saw. Have you heard of Rodney Stitch? You've got to read
Yes,
Rodney
yeah.
Stitch.
I've heard Rodney Stitch. Yeah.
He's great. Well, he has a book, Subverting America, Defrauding America,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where I think, with all your knowledge of history and what really happened, that we should be able to develop a management plan, you know,
Mm-hmm.
for, for honest management laws, right? For honest management of the government. That, like, my uncle worked for the federal, government, right? And it used to have a reputation of being the best place for, civil service, commissions and things, right? If it hadn't been corrupted by corrupt managers acting like neo-feudal. This was Helga LaRouche's insight today, and there are books on neo-feudalism. Is what we are now. It's just different kings. This manager versus that state, that king, and that's what I think is wrong about the states' rights ideas of that they end up going to war. Like, didn't it seemed like there was a problem, like, who gets Ohio River and what currencies are used in different
Well,
states, right?
well, yeah, you would have different problems, but the problem is that the problem still is basically the fact that we have dishonest and corrupt leadership, where whatever it is. So I've said I'm different from most people. I I mean, I don't know if I'd be happier under it or not, but what we have in America now is we have what I call socialism without services. We pay taxes for a nanny to state grave. We pay taxes which should finance a fully functioning socialist like France has or whatever, but we don't get any services at all, none. So we have the worst of both worlds. We have the laissez-faire services, which means nothing, and we have taxes for socialism. So if we went full-blown socialism, and we started having the service. I mean, that wouldn't necessarily be my favorite choice, but as long as it was the standard of living went up, I could support that. It's better than what we have now. And if we could go to free enterprise and get government regulation and everything out of it, that's fine. But the business world has to not be corrupt then. They have to, and that, unfortunately, they are corrupt, and they're going to want to pay the least wage possible. We know that. Without the minimum wage, they'll go back to child labor. So we know that. So the problem is both sides are terrible. I don't know what the answer is. I really don't, because it's the wrong people are in charge, and they've always been in charge. That's the problem. And they just perpetuate themselves. So someone like you has a chance to do this. So we get the wrong ideas constantly.
Mm-hmm. I call myself adult child of a Republican family, but I was raised on my stepfather on Ayn Rand and right. And this,
I read them too. Yeah.
Right. Well, but I think they're wrong. Recently, I looked at the TV series, and
me too.
It doesn't correspond with reality, right? This ideology of, individualism, and, that,
and that's what happens to the right, the individualism on steroids. So you get Ayn Rand. It's first of all, it's not, you can't equate it with Christianity, because she very famously said there's no, why should we have any reason to love our neighbor or help our neighbor, something like that. That was it's selfishness.
That virtue of selfishness, right? It, like, they're parasites, and unions are parasites, or and welfare is and people like me are, anybody who doesn't have a job. But I went to business school, and there had all sorts of, the idea of business is to help the consumers and, and be fair with employees. I mean, the best practices are that the net management not be, a corrupt
Well, not just
monopoly
it's like
power.
Reagan destroyed the right, and I think Clinton destroyed the left. But the right now they have their own code words. The left has all their terminology, like their woke terminology. The right, one of their favorite ones is to call a couple of job creators, to call the rich job creator. How many jobs have you created? Yeah, I mean, crappy jobs. But again, nobody used to talk like that. And you're a couple of years older than me. So, but when I first started in the working world, I tell people stories about how the things we could get away with. And of course, I was complaining then because the World War II generation, I thought, oh, they're terrible, but they were softies compared to what the flower children became later. And when they started putting all these restrictions in, it used to be jobs would try to get people and they would talk about the benefits you got and everything and sell you on that. Now, a lot of jobs don't have any benefits or hardly any benefits. They change the hours, so you don't even necessarily have regular hours. And it's and nobody talks about it. And the left is dead. There is no labor movement. They don't talk about anything anymore. They don't care about they may talk about if they think not enough illegal immigrants are being hired or something, but they don't talk about wages for American citizens. They just don't.
Right. Well, they infiltrated and basically got rid of the unions. And actually, there's no factory kind of jobs or whatever that would support unions. And that's I got to see it from the inside through my stepfather, and he actually co-founded the Manhattan Institute with William Casey, which is, and I'm trying to. They are basically a money laundering operation for the.
Hold on a second, Tony. Can you? I can't. I got to tell Tony and Billy Ray how I can't access the Rumble chat. So he says there's pretty many people over there. Tony, can you put a message in the Rumble chat and tell them to come over to YouTube? I'm sorry because I stick on YouTube because I can see the chat here. I can't see the chat from Rumble. Maybe there's a way to do it, but it's beyond my pay grade. So tell them to come on over here because otherwise I'm not ignoring them. Let them know I'm not ignoring them. I can't see their chat, so I'd love to have more people here. But
Yeah.
Chris Gray is again mentioned a good surreal surroundings. Good to see you. Mentioned that John Rappaport died recently. I don't know if anybody knew that, and that was he was a lot older than people thought. He was like 88, and so he lives a long life, but very sad. And John was on my show once. And I think then he stopped answering. So many people are on my show and then they don't answer my emails. And they wonder I have a complex. But
I don't think people see emails. There's such a fire hydrant of stuff coming in, and depending on whether you're looking at your phone or your computer, or that I never see them. But John Rappaport was the first one to. I think he might be my only paid follower on Substack.
Oh, right. That's an honor, boy.
Well, because basically, people like you and I kind of started Substack, right? I think we kind of went there because we could talk about that thing you can't talk about on YouTube. And
right.
And I had seen him and David Martin in a documentary.
Oh, David Martin, I know. DC Dave. Yeah, he came to one of my book signings years ago. Yeah, I know DC with Dave well.
Is this, I don't know if it's DC Dave, or is it the one that has all the patents on the vaccine, like Fauci?
Oh, no. That's somebody
a different.
DC Dave, he's the one that wrote about Forrestal and a lot of other stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah, that one. But yeah, they were. That's the first time I saw John Rappaport, and he was showing how if you magnify something 30 times, it didn't make sense.
He was great. Rappaport was great, and he at the beginning of the PSYOP, he was the first one. I had him on early on, and but he again, I never had him on again because he wouldn't reply to me, and he did subscribe to me, I think, on Substack, but not a paid subscriber like you. That's amazing. But he, I think that he knew I was on Rents all the time, and there's so many, there's so many squabbles in the alt media, and he used to be on Rents all the time, and something happened there. And I guess he saw, well, he's on rent, so I can't answer him. I guess that's the only way I can figure, because it didn't make any sense to me, because I
But,
love the guy. And I
well,
always said
it
great
was
things
hard
about
to.
him.
I mean, he started on Substack, but it's hard to follow anybody. Even you. I was today. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to find. Am I going to go to Rumble? Am I find this show? But and luckily it popped
Well,
up. But
if you subscribe to me on YouTube, you should get an automatic. So subscribe to my YouTube channel; it should automatically let
pop
you
up
know.
on YouTube, and
Yeah, it's not an
that's
easy. My YouTube address isn't easy. It's got numbers and stuff in it, so I don't remember it myself at the time. And I had no guests today, so I don't promote myself like I should, I guess.
well,
Christopher, you guys don't know where Christopher Berlin is either. I think I tried to get a hold of Christopher Berlin years ago, and he didn't answer me. I think he lives
he
in
would. Well,
lives in
he's
another country, I think.
yeah, but I want to help you get people on here. This is what there's great people, and you just have to like chat with them. I talked to him once and I had to go onto his wife's Skype but his stories are the most interesting in that he was, persecuted for being persecuted. I mean, prosecuted because they tasered him in front of his family and, to shut him up. And then they prosecuted. To me, I'm going to follow all these people like Gary Webb and anybody who was really, killed for telling the truth.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Really, Surreal Surroundings. I'm sorry, I should have recognized that. That Surreal Surroundings is the name, I believe, of Karen Carpenter's new show. So that's Karen Carpenter. Congratulations on that. Look forward.
Is that the original Karen Carpenter, or no? She died, right?
Not of the Carpenters. No, that would be amazing if I had her, but no, she died at a very young age of an eating disorder. So. Thank you, Tony. I appreciate. Well, Tony, you can jump in here right now.
Yeah,
the link's
come on
there,
in.
buddy. You want to come in? I put the link in. Said to be a guest. I'll put it in again for you. This is the link. Come jump in. You can join us. Join the discussion. Okay, that's yes, that is Karen Carpenter. Okay, so I'm sorry. I know you as Karen, not Surreal, so I have to get used to calling you SS or something like that. But yeah, I appreciate you. And you have that. You have that old Democratic Party activist spirit that used to exist, that where you want to change things and you want to get people together. And the problem is the Democrats cannot get behind anything unless it's some really divisive cause like transgenderism or something like that. That they're not going to be able to get that many people around it. They can't. I don't care. I don't care about transgenders or any other group. I want to come together on the part of the people. That's all the people. And base it on class. The people, 80% of the people are not making enough money to get by.
Yeah. And that's what they do. I think that they've been infiltrated and pushing the transgender thing. And, our Truth Action Project, which you were on once, we need to get you back and more. But
sure.
But they were started because Chuck Fall was thrown off of the Green Party for somehow the trans, and it doesn't matter what state you are, that they throw off normal people because they're not trans enough. And to me, they threw me off for being anti-Semitic. And actually I went to the Green Party conference, was in Chicago last couple of weeks ago. And it was interesting because I could say that. And actually I drove Jill Stein to the airport and really got to talk to her. And
I was going to ask you if you met Jill Stein. So what's she like?
Oh, she's great. She's so nice. But she's being prosecuted for marching in Missouri at a University of St. Louis or something. The police ran her over with their bicycle. And then now 2 years later, they're trying to prosecute her and put her in jail. And
what is she? How does she stand on Israel and Gaza? Has she talked about that?
Well, she was the only one to be anti-war, Israel, right? To be they are killing people in Gaza, and like she was marching with the students who were all being beat up by, they'd infiltrate the police and beat them up. But the fact that she's being prosecuted and then I said, "Are you going to run for president?" She goes, I'm too overwhelmed with this case coming up. And to me, that's, the classic problem of, how Christopher Boleyn was assaulted by Homeland Security, and then when he went to file a complaint, they said, we're going to put you in jail if you don't get out of Chicago, and, don't ever come back here. We'll put you in jail for being a victim, right? And that's, I
would love to get Boleyn on the show. I tried to. I think he lives in France or some other. He's married to, I think, a woman from another country.
Sweden. Yeah, Sweden. He's
that's
married
what it
to a
is.
beautiful Swedish woman.
I've seen the pictures, and he. I don't know if he just doesn't want to do it, but I think
well, no, he'd love to. Actually, the one I got to know him because I put on Facebook, this is probably 5 years ago, I'd like to interview people, and he responded, and he's like, nobody wants to interview me. He couldn't get any interviews
if you
anywhere.
Have contact, right? If you have contact with, please hook him up with me. I'd love to.
I'll reach. Yeah, I get him through.
He did a lot of great work. I think he's the one that visited Pennsylvania about Flight 93 with a 9/11. I think he did, and he used to write. I don't know if it was American Free Press or the Spotlight, but we would have that in common. I'm pretty sure he wrote for them.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken.
Well, that's what's interesting because he was working for them when 9/11 happened, and then actually, I think then he got pushed out. Probably because he was, the fingerprints kept going back to that country we can't talk about, right? And I think that's why. That's something that's, again, I think they fired him, to shut him up, right, about those kind of subjects, which I think there's some kind of list of all the people that were killed for talking about that country we're not allowed to talk about, and I keep thinking that's not right, but how can we have kind of a class action lawsuit for being wrongfully targeted? But
if we had real representatives, they would have. I mean, there's I talk about the body counts in all my books. I mean, they've killed so many people. I mean, it's ridiculous how many, and it's obvious. How many people, what was the last one? God, it wasn't that long ago. Somebody said they weren't going to kill themselves. And then I can lose track of it, but that's happened many times where I'm never going to kill myself. And then,
Danny Casolaro, right?
Well, that was, yeah, sure.
That was amazing. That's the one that I really work on with that Promise software. William Hamilton, wrote and said, "Send me all your incriminating information." And he sent me his.
Did you have a connection? Was it you or somebody I had on that had a real connection to the Promise software? Was that you?
Me? Yeah, probably. Okay, yeah,
right.
I wrote written about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wrote it about it in Hidden History, and it's a fascinating. And it doesn't get talked about that much because Elliot Richardson became involved on the side of good for some reason. I'm not sure what happened there, but he was involved trying to help them out.
Yeah, from the beginning. I have all the papers that he sent, and they got it into court.
Wow.
After Danny Casolaro died, this Jack Brooks in Congress held a hearing on it. Actually, it ended up here in Chicago with Sherman Skolnick, marching outside the citizens to clean up the courts. Yeah, and I think in the end, guess who? William Barr threw it out and just threw it up to the Office of Professional
Responsibility. Trump's future Attorney General, the guy who hired Jeffrey Epstein as a math teacher without a degree. Chris Gray said he tried to get, but Chris tried to get so many people on my show. He tried to get Boleyn on my show a few years back. And Vince said Danny Casolaro's father delivered me. You never told me that. Wow.
Bring him on. Where's Vince? Why doesn't Vince come on here, right? Come on, Vince.
Vince, jump in on the link if you want to talk about Danny Casolaro's father delivering you. Jeez, I didn't know that.
Yeah, right. Vince seems to know about this. And so you were all live in this Washington area, which is...
Yeah.
That's why I want to go to Washington, come to Washington.
I tried to get Casolaro's brother for a while. I can't remember his name. Was outspoken about this, and he's a doctor in our area, but I think I couldn't get a hold of him or something. But he
Oh, yeah. Well,
Angel Blue. I'm sorry to hear about your dad. Maybe it was his birthday the 19th. That's my birthday. So it's the August birthdays are everywhere. Oh yeah, LB Vince says his father was a pediatrician in Arlington. So that was.
yeah.
And there's
Yeah.
White Wolf.
Well, I'm
White
in
Wolf
touch
appears on the
with.
scene.
Oh, good.
Guy says common sense in this country died with Thomas Paine. Vince White will say, "Well, that's true. That's not just a play on words. Thomas Paine would be. I don't think it's any accident that Thomas Paine and Patrick Henry, who was kind of old, but they both kind of were. But those were the real revolutionaries were kept out. They didn't serve in the government. Thomas Paine ended up being shunned, and he wrote a very bitter poem to George Washington where he accused him of having a heart of steel, and he really was very upset. And he was pretty much banished. And Thomas Jefferson later got into political trouble by letting him come to the White House because he still revered him. And when Paine died, nobody knows where his body is. And there's supposedly there are pieces of it here or there. Nobody knows where he's buried. It's very strange for such a famous historical figure. So he was definitely mistreated. Although we still there's White Wolf. We still
we should make a movie about
him.
that, about him. Because
White Wolf says, okay, there it is. White Wolf, how you doing, brother?
Yeah, hey.
White Wolf, are you there? We see. Can you hear me, White Wolf? Before it said it was this. I don't know. You must be having trouble with his audio.
Yeah, I
don't know if you can hear
you.
me, or we can't hear you.
We just heard him. I just heard
can't
White
hear
Wolf.
me?
Yeah,
okay, now we can hear you. How you doing?
Yeah.
WW, how you doing?
Okay.
We can hear you.
I'm sorry, I was sleeping, and I guess I missed most of the show.
Well, you're better late than never. Good to have you here.
But you were talking about Danny Casolero when I jumped on, and that means you were talking about the Franklin scandal, which is something that every American should know more about.
Huh. I didn't know there was a connection.
Of a vast iceberg.
Wow.
Absolutely. Well, the Franklin scandal, I wrote about it in Hidden History. Casolero was connected to the Franklin scandal? I don't think he was connected to that, was he?
Yeah, he was the one who died in a hotel in
oh
Maryland.
Yes, of course. Yeah, yes, he was, but but I don't think he was connected to the Franklin.
Yeah,
he was connected.
He was closing in. He was closing in on some of the culprits of the Franklin scandal. And,
I know he was investigating the octopus, which are all the bush areas. Oh, here's Tony. Oh, we got people coming in now. Tony Ty. Let me get Tony in here. Where's Tony? How you doing, Tony?
Hey, Don. I'm having a good time.
Good.
I
hear you got a little one there. Congratulations. I know you're having fun with that.
Two. He's about to be 2 next month. But I wanted to jump in. I was rocking him. He went to sleep. Thank goodness. He was a little fussy. I got him playing. We're having time. But I want to jump in. Your birthday is the 19th?
Yes, sir.
Of August?
Yes.
That's my wife's birthday.
Oh, wow. Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
She must be a wonderful person.
I do believe so. Yeah. Most beautiful person in the world to me, but
that's great.
I love you, Don. I got to jump back out. I got to, keep on.
Thank you, brother. Take care of those kids and enjoy them, man. Enjoy every minute, because man, it goes by fast. I tell you that, boy. Hug and kiss them all you can.
I got a daughter that's 10 years old. It went by faster than I could even imagine.
And you don't have much longer, unfortunately, because the eye rolling is coming. So hug her all you can now, because it's coming soon. And then it's going to be, then you're going to become the dumbest guy in the world.
Boys are harder when they're younger, and girls are harder when they're older. That's my theory.
That's exactly right. I would agree with you, brother.
All right. Well, thanks for having me. I love Don.
Thank you. Love you too. Thank you, man. Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, WW, go on. Didn't mean to interrupt you, but so the Casolero and his son were no, I'm not. I'm thinking of the guy that was investigating. What was that guy's name? No, you're thinking of the guy that was investigating the Franklin scandal. That was Casolaro was, there was another guy that was, I can't think of his name, that died in a plane crash with his 8-year-old son. That wasn't Casolaro. What was that guy's name?
With his son?
I'm sure Chris Graves knows. I'm getting terrible on names, but he was investigating he was an investigator for
he
Schmidt's
was a detective who had been talking to what's her name, who I can't remember right now either. But yeah. No, that whole thing was connected.
Gary Caradori. Thank you, Karen. Gary, it's very Casolaro Caradori. Gary Caradori. That was the guy that died in the plane crash with his 8-year-old son. That was looking in specifically to Franklin scandal.
Yeah, but the common link is the military base that Casolari was investigating in California. Because there were links to a base in Nebraska, if I can remember, and there was a Satanist who was an officer at the base in California.
Michael Aquino, the Michael Aquino, yeah.
And he was at one of the places in California where one of the boys was at. I can't remember which one.
Yes, yeah, he was accused. He was also tied in an indirect way to the McMartin preschool scandal. I talked about all that. I mean, these guys, they demonized the kids and that. It was unbelievable. The press was completely on the sides of the teachers.
Oh yeah, and but they had to be. Every time you get into this stuff, you get nothing but resistance. The schools, the cops, the courts, and the legislatures, because they're all in on it. I mean, it's I'm sure it's more widespread than what we know, and it's probably sunk its tentacles into nearly all of the local school districts. It's horrid. I was reading a comment by Chris where she was talking about her high school in Oregon that was where these so-called tranny students were raping younger boys or whatever, and the school was trying to cover it up. Yeah. And it's like, gee, what a surprise.
Yeah, well, in this case, the guy it was a girl in the bathroom, supposedly. And again, all I know is that there were angry parents, supposedly, but they weren't that many angry ones, because they didn't. And what Trump, one of the executive orders Trump signed was to get all that stuff out of the schools. No more critical race theory, no more transgender story hour, all that stuff.
Yeah, but it's funny how
but the schools just ignored them. The schools just ignored them. They just kept doing it. It's like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like when Bush signs the executive order for the Patriot Act, that gets enforced to the hilt. But when Trump signs an executive order, the liberals just ignore it.
Yeah, they did just ignore him.
Absolutely. But Trump's no different than the liberals. They're just all puppets in kabuki theater at this point, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, it's the Presidio base here. Thanks, Chris. Chris knows this stuff. Dave McGowan was investigating that too, and I wrote about it in Hidden History. But that guy Aquino, he served for decades. Now, you tell me how an open Satanist can be a colonel in I think it was the Air Force, and have all these charges against him, and they always, backed him up. I mean, this is the hideous charge that I think him and his wife were accused of doing terrible things to 3- and 4-year-olds, and just how does that work? Our military, what is first of all, I mean, I guess, I'm for freedom, but I just don't know if I'd want a Satanist as a military officer. I don't know.
I think that's actually David Livingstone. Have you read any of him? He
wrote about. No, I'm talking about Harrison Livingstone. I'm thinking. No, I don't know that.
David, there's a whole series of he's wrote a great book of white soldiers, Black Terror, white soldiers, and about fascism and the New Age. But he's got this series, Orca de Nova, where he's analyzed 2,500 years of this, the Illuminati, the Luciferian, roots of this. And I've got a friend that I try to talk about, let's regulate things. And he goes, you got to go back to Mazzini. And I mean, all these things have deep roots in this Satanism. But the commonality is they're covered up, right? That they're, because I think they're part of the military and intelligence or CIA,
I think
Epstein, right?
People think when you get into the Epstein things with the hints of cannibalism and all that, I think that way, Karen Carpenter, everybody's coming at the last minute here. Good to see you, Karen. How you doing?
Hey.
How are you?
Well, yeah, you mentioned Mazzini. I'm sure you're familiar with his letter, or Albert Pike's letter to Mazzini.
Yeah, that was
in 1870, where he talked about the 3 coming world wars, and now we're watching the third one unfold exactly as he predicted. With the Muslim world being enraged against the Christian world, and with the Jewish people as the fulcrum.
Right, exactly. Wait, Karen, how you doing? You want to promote your show?
Yeah, I have on my regular time is Tuesdays on Rumble and on YouTube.
Karen muted maybe, or
no, I can. You can't hear. I can hear her. You can't hear.
I can't hear her.
I hear her fine.
Really? Okay, I don't.
Yeah.
My regular time
is
Tuesday.
You, White Wolf? Can you hear?
White Wolf, can
you
hear
heard Karen for a minute, but now I can't hear her.
Okay, I hear. Audience, let me know in the chat if you can't hear Karen. Okay, go ahead, Karen. I hear you fine.
Okay, my regular time is Tuesdays at 8:30 or 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific. My next guest is Juliet Engel, who was sold into MK Ultra by her NSA parents.
By Vito Polakis. The chat hears you. Yeah.
Huh. Weird.
By Vito Polakis
right now.
Yeah.
Of Laurel Canyon fame. She's written 3 or 4 books about her experience as an MK Ultra survivor, and I think you'll really enjoy the show. And this topic is crucial or key. It ties right in with what you're talking about. She says she was in the same class at the Presidio as Michael Aquino, Phil Spector, Anton LaVey, and she were all in that first MK Ultra class together at the Presidio. She says. So it's going to be an interesting, great show. So that's Monday on my show, Surreal Surroundings.
Okay, and where can people hear? You're going to put the link up for people?
It's on Knights of the Storm channel.
Oh,
but also, if you check this YouTube channel, my Surreal Surroundings, my new channel, there I am broadcasting on YouTube. So if you go there, you can subscribe and it'll broadcast.
I think Don, I'm going to jump off. Maybe I can hear if I do something else.
Okay, Ellen. Thank you, Ellen.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
I'm so sorry. I don't mean to cause trouble.
No, I don't know why Ellen could. Everybody else could hear you. I don't know why she couldn't. That was weird.
Yeah, and my first guest, and I want to thank the people who have supported me. Some people have been really great help. A handful of people, and Gard Goldsmith especially has been very helpful. And of course, Jason's helped me with the technical issues, and then a few other people have really. And you subscribe to my YouTube channel, so I thank you for that, Dawn. My new YouTube channel. My first guest was Dr. Ralph LaGuardia, who is an integrative functional medicine doctor. And then my second guest, she might be a good guest for you. She was Whitney Lavender, who is a double amputee. And she's really got a really inspirational story. She's very well wide awake and into a lot of these rabbit holes that we dig into, but she's just an amazing person, and she's competing in Miss Wheelchair USA very soon. She's Miss Wheelchair Tennessee, and it has nothing to do with beauty. It's all about you have to submit some essays and give some speeches and things, and you've got to get it together to be in this competition that she's in. But she's had an amazing life and really overcome a lot of difficulties. She'd probably be a really great guest for you. And then my last guest was fellow podcaster Algorithm, but Dr. Juliet Engel coming up, she would be great for you.
Well, I appreciate it. That's great. Chris, I saw you jump in, and I tried to add you to the stage, but you disappeared for a good. Chris said he tried. Well, try again if you want. I don't know what happened there. But sometimes
Yeah, and
when
I
our white
live
wolf
fairly
Huskies-
close to Fresno, and it was shocking when I was looking into Danny Casolaro and the Octopus of Global Control and that whole operation, that there was quite a lot of the activity was run through the Fresno airport, with the Fresno police being highly compromised, and then the military base, I think down in Riverside County or that area and down in Southern California, I think it had to do with Native American property also, and there were
yes, there was a Corazon reservation or something. There's I remember some weird stuff was going on there. I think it was a Corazon or something like so. Again, somebody in the chat probably knows.
But
exactly.
I was shocked that I lived fairly close to where all this hub of activity was, and the police were in on all of this smuggling and drug running.
They always
and
are.
Through the Central Valley. I grew up in a sleepy little 3,000 person town, but I hear that it was quite a drug hub. I had no idea, and I lived there, but that's what they say, that it was a great place to traffic drugs, maybe because it was kind of under the radar there. So
yeah,
I just wanted to say hello.
Drug Alliance. I remember Gary Webb talking about that.
Right.
Corazon and the link to what's his name, the military guy that was tangential to Blandon. I can't remember his name right now.
And somebody corrected me. Aquino was Army, not Air Force. So I appreciate that. And everybody in the chat room, I missed any of your
but it's
lots of good comments there. Appreciate it.
But when you dive down the rabbit holes, you find that they're all connected.
Yeah.
They're all connected. That's what you find.
Yeah, well, that's why my Substack today that I wrote was about Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, which I've caught a lot of flack from people for just sometimes because a part of me that's really naive that I want to accept people at face value, and Tucker especially is really smooth. I mean, he can put out a Jimmy Stewart level sincerity, boy. He is.
No, Carlson is nothing but a CIA skill.
He can seem so sincere.
Time and time again.
Yeah, well, but I mean, when you're interviewing Hunter Biden, it just come on, you just gotta. And I think these guys are forced to do it. I can't believe that him and Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes, who obviously is definitely a plant. There's no question about him. Why is he interviewing Hunter Biden? But he did.
But
and it's like
they interview each other, and they even condemn each other. It's complete kabuki theater. It's just like Democrat Republican. It's just two wings of the same bird, and all of the conflict is just theatrical.
Yeah, the debate they're having
now with Trump's great Iran adventure. I mean, back in 2020, they were all over him because of a phone call he allegedly made to Russia. And now he's bombing Iran into the Stone Age, and nobody gives a crap on the Democrats.
No, the Democrats aren't saying anything. It doesn't make any sense.
It's all out in the open now. I mean, anybody with two functioning brain cells can figure out what's going on at this point.
Thank you, Angel Blue. I appreciate your it never ceases to be, I mean, I'll watch that debate because I'm interested in the Charlie Kirk case. I've had several episodes about this, and clearly I think it's a lot of parallels to JFK with Tyler Robinson and Oswald. But I don't really understand why she's doing it. I don't understand why this guy, Andrew Wilson, where he's coming from. He was an unknown, yet he gets on. How did he get on Joe Rogan's, show? How? I don't get it. How did he get on there? And,
well, it's Gemma Otori.
Candace Owens supposed didn't know who he was. And Patrick Bet David is the moderator, the mysterious Iranian who isn't Iranian, who was born in there, but he's a Syrian and he's a pro-Zionist. Why is he the moderator? Candace Owens shouldn't like him. But so it makes no sense. You're right. They all do interview each other, and it's like a hierarchy. If you're a popular kid in school, you're going to be involved only with the other popular kids.
Did you see Oliver Stone with Patrick Bet David, Oliver Stone and Sean Stone with Pat? They tried to kind of pin Patrick to the wall a little bit, but he's very squirmy. He's very well lubricated, Patrick.
Yeah,
David is.
he got his start with kind of an Amway kind of thing,
right?
Pyramid, man, it's like I don't know. He's not really well spoken. He has kind of a weird impediment or something when he talks. Somebody who's trying the podcast myself. I don't understand how some of these guys succeed.
He's a bit on the thuggish side.
Yeah, well, he's not. I don't know what you call, but he's pro-Israel, obviously, and that helps. And the fact that they can call him, he's not an Iranian, but he was born in Iran, so they can kind of technically see this Iranian supports Israel. But I guess that's a secret. I don't understand it. He's never going to have me on his show, so I don't have to worry about that.
And if he does infect you, I'll raise my eyebrows.
Well, yeah, well that's what I said in my Substack. If Tucker or Candace invited me on the show, would I go? And would I be called a sellout if I did? And I said probably yes on both accounts. So that's I don't think it's going to happen. But
no, I think you should go. Why not?
Well, why would go to anything? I said if Rachel Maddow asked me, I would go on the show. I mean, I don't know.
It doesn't hurt to talk to people.
Right, exactly. That's what I think it is too. But we're just about out of time. I mean, I appreciate everybody in the chat. And White Wolf, any closing thoughts?
Well, I always promote Our Lady of Fatima. I hope that people watch my interview with you. I might try and edit that and make a condensed version and put it up on my YouTube channel.
Do whatever you want with it, brother. You can do what you want with it. Sure.
Struggle through 30 minutes of us trying to get connected and.
Yeah, well, that's a lot of my shows are like that. Although my connection has ever since Billy Ray sent me
that means you're over the target. That's what they always told me back.
That's what they told me too. But
Bomber Command.
My connection seems to have been straightening out ever since Billy Ray sent me another microphone where this old one is suddenly working. So I don't seem to be having any problems. I even was on every time I've been on the Union of the Unwanted. I always have trouble, and even if I don't have it anywhere else, I always have it on there. So I say, we can't hear you. So a lot of times I use my phone, but this time it worked. So I don't know. Maybe that part is finally, we've gotten over that. So anyhow, well, you're always a pleasure, White Wolf. Somebody said before, because I said it's like a cafeteria, and the most popular table, you have Joe Rogan and Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, all those people. And I said, I'm over in the corner somewhere, and somebody said, you're sitting with White Wolf, and I said, and that's where I would be, in that corner, maybe with Karen Carpenter, people like that.
Well, in the cafeteria, I was always alone.
Oh, okay, that's true. You probably wouldn't let me sit at your table. I would be alone. I'd be rejected by White Wolf.
Anybody sit at my table. Nobody wanted to sit at my table.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Well, I took my lunch and went and found a quiet place to sit outside on the lawn.
yeah, I did. I spent my lunch elsewhere sometimes
with maybe one or two friends.
But well, I appreciate that. Thank you, Angel Blue. Thanks everybody else in the chat. Karen, again, give out the time and whatever the link is again for your podcast.
It's Surreal Surroundings on Nights of the Storm at this point on Rumble. Mondays. This week is Monday evening. Usually it will be Tuesday evenings at 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 Eastern, and also on YouTube. Surreal Surroundings 27 on YouTube. And that's my channel I'm using these days. So if you see me in the chat, if you just click on my icon in YouTube, it'll take you to my channel.
I'll go there right now and sign up.
It's at Surreal Surroundings 27.
Good luck. I know you do great. I appreciate it. Thanks everybody for tuning into I Protest. We'll see you next week. Same time. Take care.
Take care, everybody.
See you later.